A teen spy for the Union Army. True story part 5. Final part. The sun had barely crested the Virginia hills when young Charlie stepped onto the Union camp's muddy ground once again. But this time, he was just a teenage scout with quick feet and clever tricks. He was the boy who had walked into the lioness den, stared down its generals, and come out with the secrets that would help win battles and save lives. General McClellan himself came to greet him. Word of the boy's heroics had already reached the ears of commanders. With a firm handshake and eyes full of admiration, the general said, "You may not wear a soldier's uniform, son, but you've done more than many who do." Charlie just smiled. He didn't do it for the medals. He did it because he believed in the cause. He believed that freedom mattered, that slavery had to end, that even a boy could help shape history if he was brave enough. The intelligence Charlie brought back was quickly relayed to Union strategists. Hidden Confederate supply routes were shut down. A planned ambush on Union soldiers was preempted. And for the first time in weeks, hope seemed to rise like smoke over the blue tents of the Northern Army. But war is never done with those it touches. Days after his return, Charlie was approached again, this time not for a single mission, but for a role that would stretch into months, traveling with a Union regiment, gathering intelligence wherever possible. Always behind the lines, always just one wrong word away from capture. His youth continued to be his greatest weapon. Confederate guards barely looked twice at a boy offering apples from a wagon. They never suspected the paper hidden beneath the barrel or the coded note tucked into his sock. He slipped in and out of southern towns like a shadow, and every time, he returned with maps, overheard conversations, supply schedules, and troop movements. In one particularly dangerous operation, Charlie had to disguise himself as a chimney sweep in Richmond. The soot covered his face, his hands, and his voice. But it also gave him access to rooftops and windows of Confederate officers' homes. What he saw and heard helped shape the Battle of Antietam, the bloodiest single-day battle in American history. Thanks to the information Charlie provided, thousands of Union soldiers were repositioned just in time to avoid a slaughter. But every spy knows that luck eventually runs thin. In the spring of 1863, while sneaking back through Confederate lines in Tennessee, Charlie was spotted. A sharp-eyed cavalryman noticed the strange bulge in the heel of his boot, a hidden compartment with a tiny coded message inside. He ran for hours, through swamp, thicket, and forest. But he was just a boy, and they were grown men on horseback. When they finally cornered him near a riverbank, soaked and gasping, the Confederate officer stepped down and looked him in the eye. "You're just a child," the man said. "What kind of war makes children spies?" Charlie didn't answer. He just stared back. Defiant, they searched him, found the message, and knew they'd caught someone important. He was taken to a holding camp. Word of his capture spread fast, and within days, letters poured into Confederate offices, Union generals demanding his release. Newspapers on both sides called him the boy spy. Debates raged about whether it was even moral to punish a child as a spy. But the Confederates knew they had to tread carefully. If they executed him, it would be a scandal. If they released him, he'd return to spying. In the end, a trade was arranged. Charlie was swapped for a captured Confederate scout, older and more experienced, but of equal value in the game of war. When Charlie returned home to Union territory, crowds greeted him like a hero. But he wasn't the same. He was still young, but his eyes were older now, as that had seen too much for someone barely into manhood. He retired from active spying not long after that. His name was whispered in war rooms and printed in wartime diaries. Some called him a miracle, others a ghost. But Charlie just wanted to be a kid again. After the war ended, he faded from public life, choosing instead to live quietly with his family. He never sought medals or recognition, and many of his stories remained untold, locked away in journals or memories too painful to revisit. But those who knew what he did never forgot. Years later, when veterans gathered at reunions and children asked about the war, they'd tell tales of brave soldiers, thundering cannons, and broken flags. And always they'd mention the boy with the sharp eyes and steady heart who had once outsmarted an entire army, a teen spy, a hero hidden in plain sight, a thread in the fabric of a war that changed a nation. And though history books may not shout his name, every secret he carried helped write the ending of the Civil War. If you enjoyed this story, comment part 2 to get the next true story. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel. More incredible stories are coming soon.